Morning.
Hey, morning, Mason.
How are you?
I'm cold. It's
Yeah.
15 degrees in Dallas.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
43 degrees in Northern California.
I'll I'll trade.
Yeah. I can't remember the last time I seen 15 degrees, but
My gosh. Yeah, man. It's luckily it's short-lived. This kind of weather doesn't last too
sure.
long. But
But I'm guessing it's got to warm up by the afternoon being in Dallas.
no, I don't think so.
Really?
I think for the next couple of days, it's just like
Oh, wow.
Arctic tundra. Looks
Jeez.
like it'll warm up above freezing though finally tomorrow, but it'll drop into freezing at night. So
Got
what are
it.
you gonna do?
Yeah.
Hey Sam or Nate, and I think I saw Sam.
Yeah,
Yeah,
same.
hey, how we doing, guys?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Good.
What's up, guys?
We
Luke's
haven't gone into the negatives for temperature, but I don't think it stopped snowing since like Friday night for us up in Michigan. So
oh
we've just been getting pounded.
oh yeah. Once I hear Michigan, you can make snowmen. I can't here.
I live right on the lake too, so we get the lake effect. We're about like
Ooh,
10 miles from the lake, so we get it right on top of us. So it never misses us, that's for sure.
yeah,
You guys do it. There's no way.
yeah. That's like a heavy winter jacket situation.
Yeah, I
Good.
brought up the mittens. I've been wearing the mittens every day this week.
It's so cold you got to keep the fingers together. Can't even have
Exactly.
yeah, gotta go mittens. Brennan, welcome, welcome. Luke is too busy shooting ducks with clients out there in the cold of Arkansas. But I know he wanted me to just jump in. Happy to kind of just moderate, I suppose, but I, we can make this super free form. And then I don't think any of you have met Tyler. Tyler and I work together. I thought it'd be cool if he joined us and just kind of heard the chit chat. He's one of our operations or our chief operating officer.
Nice. Welcome, Tyler.
Thanks, guys.
So while we wait for a few people to jump in, I think Luke wanted me to talk today because we're talking about startups and the small market. And that's something I've been presenting on at Napa for the last couple of years. So it's been something I've been thinking about a lot. Um, and I guess my first question is to anyone else: does anyone else here focus like specifically on startups, or is it more incidental to their practice?
I don't focus on it, but I get a lot of it. Just by, I guess being when I got into the business, it was right when the Cal Savers mandate came out and for California, and it was almost an easy fit. And then I just became really good at it. And it was about 2021, 3 years after it basically was initiated, I kind of turned it off, right? I told people like I just can't do it anymore because it was too much. Um, but I just switched firms, so I turned that back on because there is a lot of income in it, right? There is ways to make money off of it, and it's just kind of using the providers to help with that. But yeah, I
Yep.
kind of guilty by association, really.
Hey, Devin, and you didn't miss much. We just really just cracked the conversation open, talking about jumping into small plans. And I think Cal Savers state mandates, right? You have your carrots and your sticks. I would say that the state mandates right now, the looming federal mandate, are your sticks. And I think from what I've heard, people would rather work with you, Mason, than go to a government run
Yep.
thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So that's positive. And then I think the carrots are out there too with Secure 2.0 tax credits. So I would open it up to anybody else where is someone else experiencing the windfall of state mandates with startups? Are people turning it away for certain reasons? Anybody else?
Yeah, I would say kind of similar to Mason for me, at least in our practice, is you know, coincidentally we get a lot of startup plans. obviously the mentioning of secure, the tax credits through Secure 2.0 has really helped us. But I wouldn't necessarily say that we focus on it. But we do get a lot of startup type business. It's actually kind of like Mason kind of said, it's been really good for us. The margins are pretty good on startup plans, and a lot of these small business owners that I've been in contact with really like the idea of profit sharing. So we do the startup plan with profit sharing added to it, and those plans that we've had for even for a year, whether a small dentist office that now is at after 1 year, year and a half, is at $150,000 in plan assets. So we kind of just piggybacking off of that first question you kind of had was don't really specialize in it, but we take them absolutely. Some of them grow really quick.
Mhm.
Hey, Ryan, I think I just saw you jump on too. Welcome.
How's it
Right
going?
now, Luke is he's got his waders on. He's just going through a river right now with a shotgun. But I'm filling in for Luke. So I'm gonna do my best because Luke's really good at this. So
If you don't mind, I got a question for Brennan. What providers are you using for your startups?
We're mainly using, so we're with Raymond James. We're really utilizing their MeApp exchange, using Transamerica, a decent amount. We've really tried to consolidate the providers. So we're really dealing with Transamerica, Empower, a little bit of American Funds, and kind of try to navigate, through those three. The multiple employer aggregation program that Raymond James has with Transamerica, we really like that because of the pricing. We never get beat on pricing for startup plans with it. The only, sometimes we do feel like you kind of get what you pay for in that regard. So trying to navigate that with startup plans, and kind of our plan really is to utilize that platform for startups. If it's an existing plan, we obviously aren't tied to that. But because of pricing, we use that Transamerica Talent Resources for startup plans. And then once the plan grows, we look at switching, doing one plan conversion, as the plan gets bigger.
Brennan, what are you charging for a typical startup plan?
50 basis points is what we're charging.
Okay, but no like startup fee or like implementation fee or anything like that.
Don't do any of that. Actually, so we pretty new at this. Our firm really has only been doing this for about 2 years now, basically since I joined. And actually did get the idea of a implementation cost, but we haven't really went forward with that yet. But we are considering that, just an extra, an added fee there.
Yeah.
We're pretty hands-on. I don't handle really hardly any personal money at our firm. And we do a lot of the work for a startup. I'm on every call and email, things of that nature. Sometimes I'm filling out census data for people. So, we have thought about that, but we haven't moved forward with it yet.
So I would highly recommend going for a flat fee rather than just basis points. I found that the market can bear it. And I mean, anything from 2,500 to 7,500, especially when you're that hands-on, I think is absolutely worth the service provided. My 2 cents there, and I've rarely heard pushback. I think of the basis point trail really as something just to keep a hook in there for when you renegotiate. Because if you just go flat fee with no basis point, right, then you're negotiating for more, right? Whereas if you put a flat fee, a trail, and then renegotiate to a high flat fee or whatever your model is something that we found success in.
Bill, like so for example, we just brought on, we don't do much of it, we brought on solo 401k and we were done, and we didn't charge with a startup fee. Do you see a lot of people charging for the solo 401k as well? Like what do you think the market holds there? Is it more like a 2,500 type of fee, or what do you think that market kind of is for that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think first and foremost for a solo K, or a cash balance, new comparability, profit sharing, whatever. Like, I think the tip of the spear for our industry is, hey, I just identified a solo K for you, and I'm going to save you, X amount in taxes this year. 2,500 all of a sudden becomes very small, right? Your value is immediately created. 2,500 is totally palatable, and then the conversation goes from there. And I think if you strike it from that point, they're happy. They just saved a ton of money. You've proven your value. You'll continue to prove your value as new opportunities come up for that business owner, and you're off to the races. So that's my opinion there.
Thanks.
And for startups on our end, it is something we've probably leaned into a little bit more recently, just a result. So we're based up in Portland, Maine, and Maine's one of the state mandate states. And so we just started to get a huge influx of startup opportunities. So we sort of carved out an internal small business team that's specifically focusing on that area. And we do charge an implementation fee. And then we have an asset-based fee. It's usually 75 basis points with an annual minimum. And so we set the expectation very clearly that whatever amount doesn't get covered by that asset-based fee throughout the year, we'll invoice the plan sponsor the difference at the end of the year. So that way kind of get best of both sides. You're going to cover your costs. Plus, I think the other element of Secure Act 2.0, Bill, that you didn't touch on was the auto enrollment, auto escalation. I think some of these startup plans are going to have significantly more flow to them. And so you want to still be able to participate in the upside without having to go back and reprice from a flat fee to a asset-based fee. So we've found that that's worked pretty well. And I dare say Mainers are about as frugal, borderline cheap as they come. And we've really never had any pushback on that cost. And candidly, we tell people, if you want to go somewhere where it's cheaper, good luck.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And I would say, like, I'm not saying to go flat fee in the beginning, like pure. I'm saying put a basis point trail on there for that point when it grows to renegotiate. I just want to make sure I'm clear on that, because otherwise they're going to be like, well, you're going to be fighting for more money when you can say, hey, we have a trail on this. I'm making more. I want to renegotiate. Then all of a sudden you're in a positive light, and getting that pure flat fee when it makes sense for your model there. Anybody else have thoughts on that pricing? And I would move to service too, because I find a trap that a lot of advisors get caught in is they play in the 5 to 25 million space. They have a service expectation that they're trying to do, and a commodity, where we're getting commoditized, they're trying to do price. And then it's almost like a starvation mentality when you get down to the startup model, where it's like, I can't do all of this for my startups. Does anyone here differentiate their service models to where I'm going to offer this for you, Mr. and Mrs. Startup, and then, if you're looking for more, I have a different service model for a different cost. Has anyone thought about that when it comes to these two segments?
We haven't tiered ours out. We've kind of just done, initially we were doing like the flat startup fee, but now that you get the tax credits for the first 3 years, we've changed it to no basis points on it, and then just a flat fee, and kind of gauging it based on the employees and what that fee will be for the first 3 years. And to Nate's point with the auto enroll, like a lot of the plans that we started up with, I don't think that it's going to get to the fee. So like we've been charging like 3,500 or like 4,500 for it, because they're essentially getting it back on the tax credits. And realistically at 50 bips, a plan to flow $1 million in 3 years is unlikely for the startup space as of right now. So we haven't really thought about like kind of the switch, and just saying that we're going to switch to 50 bips after you're no longer eligible for the tax credits. But from the service standpoint, like we'll go through, I forget who mentioned, but like on each call with like the implementation team and talking through payroll and being on the payroll calls and all that stuff, we do that initially. And then we're like on site to help with enrollments, but the auto enroll is nice to get everybody into the plan, obviously, initially. So it's basically kind of helping 1 or 2 people opt out, which kind of stinks, but you also get the people that increase their savings. But I'd be interested to hear, like, if you guys have like a silver, a platinum, and like a gold standard or whatever package, and like what that would come with. And and kind of the variations between the three, if anybody's doing it.
So this is Kyle. Sorry, I missed the startup there. I'm in the car on the way here. Anyways, what we do is, so we actually charge 50 bips with a minimum fee of $7,500 on any startup plan. Because it's a startup plan, we will only service with virtual education and virtual meetings. And then if they want any sort of on-site education, then there's an additional fee for that. And what we'll do is we'll just basically give them an hourly fee of what we'll charge for that to have an advisor on site. Because the problem that we've found with any sort of startup plans is they're great. They're wonderful relationships. You build a really strong relationship, but they can be very service heavy. Especially like Sam, you just talked about, you sit on payroll calls, you get everything, up and running, and they're really hard to service from that regard. And so what we've done is we just said, okay, we'll do all virtual stuff. We'll help you get everything up and running. But then if you want any sort of on-site education and whatnot, it's going to be an additional fee from there. So it's not really like a gold, silver, platinum sort of deal, but it's one of two different service categories that we give them.
Yeah. Nate, what's your minimum fee? You mentioned as well that you have a minimum fee that you have to meet as well if the 50 bips doesn't get to.
3,500, and then we usually do a 75 basis point fee. So I think the break even point to get there is like 400 and something thousand plan assets.
Kyle, what do you think your, not necessarily close rate is, but like how many startup opportunities do you get a year that you end up moving forward with that minimum?
Sam, was that to me?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we actually we are at 100% close rate over the last 6 months. We've had 7 startup plans, and not one of them has balked at the $7,500 minimum.
Wow. Okay.
Awesome.
So what is it that excites them or compels them to, you think, just say, absolutely, like I see the value? Is there an X factor you think that you guys are hitting on that really gets that done?
I would say, honestly, it's our personal touch side of things. So we do a very good job of hand-holding them through the startup process, getting everything going. We do offer the enrollment meetings, obviously virtually, but we do a very in-depth process in the education side of things. And I think that's really come across well and been receptive to all, prospects that we've had. So I would say that's probably our biggest differentiator in getting the uptake on that, is explaining everything thoroughly. I mean, at the end of the day, guys, if you're trying to make a sale, all you have to do is figure out what that plan sponsor needs or what that employer needs, what their problem is, and then give them a solution. 9 times out of 10, they're going to say yes and implement.
Mm-hmm. Who do you guys
Especially if you
use as your?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, who do you guys use for your provider with that, or do you have a couple different ones?
Yeah,
for
so
your
we have a couple
startups?
different so we have a couple different methods. If you've got an employer where they've got a very capable HR team, as you guys can probably imagine, there's a couple different HR folks that you'll come across, those that know what they're doing and those that don't. The ones that know what they're doing, we generally speaking recommend Alaris. The reason why we recommend Alaris is because they're a very capable record keeper with static pricing. So usually what we recommend is everybody do the full 316 package that they offer. They won't sign the 5,500, but they'll do all the notice delivery, all that. They'll do eligibility tracking. So Alaris is our go-to for the ones that are more self-service oriented. The other one that we would go with if they want more technology is going to be Empower and TPA combo. So going the unbundled route. And as far as TPA, we usually recommend DWC. You can't beat their pricing. They're usually like a flat $1,800. They'll do $500 document fee. So they're very cost competitive. And then of course you get the Empower technology. So the reason why we like that combo for the less self-serving HR folks is because DWC does a good job of walking them through everything. And then they kind of keep an eye on the plan to make sure everything's in compliance.
I think someone else mentioned Empower too. What is their initial like startup pricing structure? Is there a base fee in addition to percentage asset base, or what does that look like?
There is, I don't recall exactly what they charge. I feel like it's honestly custom pricing, but
Yeah, with
I'll have to
amount
look.
of employees or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't think there's a static pricing for that one.
Got it.
Yeah, we use Empower for, I haven't used them for any startups yet. But we do use Empower as plans get bigger or, bigger plans that convert. I like their implementation process. I've had a good experience with it, and obviously the technology side of it, I think is pretty user friendly.
Have you guys had any flack with the service side with Empower? I don't think we've had anything crazy recently, but I've been hearing it all over the place.
I've had terrible service with them. And then another thing that comes up is they will market my total retirement. I've had
Yeah.
some different employers reach out and say like, well, what's this service compared to what you're doing for us? Like basically it looks like they're trying to take the advisory role.
Yeah.
And it pisses me off. I'm actually meeting with my Empower people this month to talk about it, because I've had just 3 clients literally the last month reach out about it.
And if you, after their acquisition of Personal Capital, which was an advisory firm based, I think, out of Denver, Colorado, if you are a participant and you link any outside accounts, it triggers something in the Empower system where a Personal Capital advisor will call them twice a year, every single year, trying to push managed accounts and or get a rollover into the plan. And if somebody terminates and they're in their system as a terminated participant with a balance, an Empower advisor is going to call them. I think it's either once or twice a year to try and generate a rollover into an Empower IRA.
Yeah.
So they're a
Yeah.
little bit in that like Fidelity on the green line mentality, where they just are trying to monetize the hell out of every single participant on their platform because they just gave away their record keeping business for so long. I think their margins are getting squeezed, and so they've been just kind of unloading a lot of the cross selling. So just kind of buyer beware there. They do have great technology, and I think their service is starting to come back a little bit now that they've onboarded the Pru book and the Mass Mutual book, but just proceed cautiously.
Yeah, that's dead on. They've wanted to be Fidelity since they broke away.
Yeah.
I hear that and see the same things. I'm glad to hear they're digesting those big books lately, but they will try to monetize, and for bigger books that they have, they'll say, hey, let's draw a line in the sand. Where is it? Is it under $50,000? Like, but if you don't have a stellar relationship with like Empower, then they're just going to let their model run. So
Yeah.
I completely agree with that.
Yeah, we just met with our Empower rep a couple weeks ago to kind of draw that line in the sand on like when do we want to get notified of terminated participants with this asset amount. And I don't really know if I think it's been like a month, so we haven't really seen the difference, but I've been hearing that all over the place. Or contrast, Fidelity, I could be wrong, but they send us stuff. Do they reach out as well, that intentional as Empower? I think Empower is a different beast, but I didn't know if Fidelity reached out as well to try to track down the terminated assets.
Hell yeah, they do. They compete with each
Yeah.
other too. I mean,
Yeah.
Fidelity will poach, like there's a Fidelity Direct side that will call on the Fidelity Advisor side. Like they even compete
Yeah.
amongst themselves. They're a beast.
Yeah, the direct thing was frustrating for us. We had a call with our Fidelity rep, and he was like had like his prospect list of like plans like in our area, and we were like, I don't really know if we like that. We haven't had it come to like one of our plans yet, but the day that happens, our whole entire book's moving, and we're going elsewhere, obviously. So that was kind of weird, but
Well, let me take this conversation to the market reaction to a Fidelity Empower model, which is the digital record keeper. I'm talking about Vestwell, PCS, to a lesser extent, Ubiquity Human Interest, because I haven't heard the greatest there. Kind of cookie cutter. But American TCS, which is another record keeper roll up, which has happened. Does anyone have experience with digital record keepers, which are less frills, lower costs, open architecture, and been happy?
Yes. I use a company called 401 Go.
Oh yeah.
Yep, out of Utah. Really, really, really good. I've dealt with Vestwell, I've dealt with Human Interest. I tried using Ubiquity a couple times. I haven't done any plans with Vestwell or Ubiquity. I did do a couple plans with Human Interest, and they are falling apart internally. It's terrible. I won't do anything with them anymore. But I think I have about 23, 24 plans at 401 Go right now. Anytime I've started a plan or less than about 250,000, I suggest 401 Go. They did just increase their pricing. It was $30 a month and then $9 per employee per month. But now it's $99 per month if they go direct. If they have an advisor on the plan, it's only $80 a month. That's for everything, right? If you want profit share, all the different, flexibility in terms of design. But they have like the starter Ks. They can do, a lesser one where you kind of fit into a box for like, I think I want to say it's like $75 a month. And if you're an advisor, it's like, $10 less a month, but really, really good service, super easy, flexible in terms of if you want to do implementation costs, if you want to have different tiers when your client reaches certain assets. So some people are saying, I got to have a minimum. You can do from like 0 to, 400,000, $3,500 a year. As soon as they hit that, you go to asset base. Like it's so automatic. Another thing I like too is every single plan you have on there, it's the same fund lineup. So they literally have one different tab on there where you can look at all your funds. And if you want to switch one, right, if you're monitoring them and you switch it out and put a new one in, it does it for all your plans. They send out the notices. It's super, super easy. So you're kind of monitoring one plan, right? But it's just so flexible. Service has been great. I love them.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. We brought them onto our platform a little while ago, and I agree with all your points. And the other thing that really impressed me about 401 Go is they built their own like code.
Yeah.
So where, everything's off of, the two platforms. 401 Go is its own record keeper that it built from scratch. And I think that's really cool. And it's obviously working. So
yeah, I would say the only downfall to them is the implementation is kind of wonky. Like you can send them a link and the employer would go on, they click the link and it takes them through 4 steps. The first step, super easy, is just like all the business information. So they're going to have that on hand. The second one is they're going to ask them all the plan design questions. So they want to do matching. What's the eligibility going to look like? And sometimes that's a lot for an employer if they don't know what they want or know they can do. So what I usually do is I have that implementation fee. So I can say, hey, look, I'm going to send this link. I'm going to walk you through the first couple steps. And then the last 2 steps are just, uploading the employees and then signing documents. But that's one thing where it can kind of be a little bit of a hiccup if they try to do it themselves and they just don't know exactly what they're doing. Just for a heads up, if anybody does it, if everyone uses them.
yeah, this was our paid promotion of 401 Go. I hope you enjoyed it.
My only experience with those is Human Interest, and it's really taking plans from them because I think there's a difference between like streamlining the plan design conversation and then just like eliminating it altogether, which is sort of where they've gone. And we've had a ton of plan sponsors reach out that have plan design features that they had no idea that they were in there or how to administer them appropriately. They're super limited in certain things like definition of plan comp and what you're able to do in terms of whether it's when somebody becomes eligible versus full year plan comp. So again, I think that the story they're selling is very appealing, and I can understand why they write so much business, especially through the payroll providers and the payroll integration story. But I am excited to check out 401 Go. Mason and I have chatted about them before, and I'm trying to keep an open mind, but based on my experience with Guideline, Human Interest, I am very trepidatious.
Yeah. Here's another thought too, as we look to this kind of new breed of record keepers, put PCS on the map. And I would use them for when you have like a cash balance situation, right? So same kind of approach, just for different plan design. Is where like a Ubiquity or, Human Interest is like, no, we want to be 338, 316. It has to be within these parameters. It's good to have pivots with these new models. So I would put them on the map because when we identify cash balance, we go to them and they do a good job.
On 401 Go, question for you guys. How has the year-end compliance process been for that?
Super easy. They actually test throughout the year. So
Mhm.
you can see if they're passing or failing throughout the whole year. And they do it all. They're 316. They prepare. It's really actually easy because the client gets like notification, or if they go online, they have like a huge border like that says, compliance, this and that. If you want to do additional funding, it's the easiest I've dealt with. I have a couple startup plans that I did with Principal back when they had a pretty good solution. And from those startup plans, I think I had 2 or 3 not file 5500s for like 2 years. So one of those things where it's like night and day difference.
I'm curious for people who are doing a lot in the startup space, whether they're going 321 or 338 and how that conversation typically goes. Presumably many of these clients aren't going to really fully understand the difference. And I think there's a lot of potential efficiencies from going 338, but would love to hear what people are doing.
I think my quick answer there is like, these are entrepreneurial small businesses, right? It's a different psychology than a big corporation. And really what we position is we're going to save you a bunch of money on your taxes and we're going to make this as easy as possible. So we just do 338. We outsource it, do the investments, they screen, they score, we're done, right? So rather than take on that extra work for 5 basis points or whatever, we just opt to do 338 for all those.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't really give them a choice. Sorry, Brendan. We just kind of say, if you want to work with us on a startup plan, we have to be 338.
Yeah, we're 338. We're trying to, majority of our plans, we're actually trying to be 338, just to kind of scale it. We do a lot in the franchisee space. There's a lot of other headaches going on with franchisees besides the investment. So we're, trying to be 338 for most of our plans.
And you guys just go in 338 core lineup across all of them to the extent possible, maybe a little flexibility in the cash account depending on the platform, and then a little bit of flexibility in the QDIA.
Yeah, what I've seen too is, again, it's in the franchisee space, which we're in, they're more concerned about the education side than the actual, reviewing the fund lineup. So it's more important for us to, and scalable to do, 338, really just educate them on general 401k, investing in it and participating.
So we talked about servicing, talked about compensation, right? Tax credits, Secure 2.0, we went over a little bit. Another question that I have written down that I'm curious about with this group is, when we opened the call, a lot of people said, yeah, I'm getting startups. Incidentally, they're coming to me. Is anybody here going out and trying to capture startups and market yourself in the segment, and looking at it as an area of growth?
Yeah, kind of a little bit of what we're doing, utilizing a lot of centers of influence, in our local area. The franchisee space, those associations, a lot of times are just sending those to us. But one thing that we've started to do to try to, put ourselves out there is, we've just done direct mailings, on
Nice.
tax credits, just general logistics of a 401k, just to try to get our name out there to, essentially market ourselves that, they're going to get something in the mail from us, almost, about every quarter, once a quarter, we're sending something out, and if, until they tell us to stop. So,
Yeah. Are we talking snail mail or email?
yeah. So yeah,
That's awesome.
both. So, we're essentially just sending that stuff out. And I guess from that, obviously they're not all startup plans, but a lot of people have reached out that, want either a solo or, switching from the simple to a 401k. We're sending direct mailings out all the time.
How are you sending out, and like how much response you getting back? What does that look like?
Response, it varies. Sometimes it depends on what we're sending out. But I would say the interest is really spiked. People actually moving forward, it's varying. Again, depending on what kind of sparked their interest there. So, and it's more so just our local market, within a 50-mile radius is who we're kind of focusing on right now, try to clean that up, and then we'll expand as needed.
Brennan, how are you building your list for that marketing campaign? Are you just going in and pulling all the EINs in a 50-mile radius and mailing them all, or how are you doing that?
I've just used different wholesalers. Hey, they just send me a list of, every plan within, 50 miles, and they're the ones providing that list for us. And then we're utilizing, the addresses on there. And we have our operations team that's, kind of handling the mail out portion, for our 401ks.
Sure. So for you building then the campaigns internally, or are you using another third-party software like a open market or open letter marketing or something like that to send out those letters?
Everything's internal right now. So we've really only dabbled in the 401k, really for about the last 2 years. So, everything was, personal wealth management before. We would do a one-off 401k. It had about 10 plans up until about, I started 2 years ago, was, hey, you're only going to do 401ks. So we're at just like 51 plans now. So everything we're building out is starting internally and figuring out how to scale it.
Yeah.
I love it.
No, that's good. So what we're doing is we're kind of combing through some of our private wealth clients to see who's business owner, do they have a plan yet, and then just kind of having conversations with them. Otherwise, we're getting a ton of leads, Brennan, similar to what you did, just from local COIs that know of people. They're like, hey, we've talked about it, or they're, hey, we're a simple and we want to look at moving to 401k. That's where a lot of our leads are coming from.
Right. And I'm doing the same thing. We have 8 other advisors here, utilizing them to, reach out to business owners and, personal clients, see if they, want to, convert the to us or start one of them.
One thing you guys could do if you're looking to build up your COIs is maybe do like some CPE stuff for any of your local CPAs in the area, because they know all the business owners and they know who doesn't have a retirement plan and who does. So if you guys are looking for an area to penetrate, that's certainly a good one.
No, absolutely. Appreciate it.
Let me ask a question on CPAs, and then I'd love to go into a strategy we're doing that involves CPAs. But Kyle, when you make a relationship with a CPA firm, do you do a solicitor agreement, or is it referral out of goodwill, or do you create an arrangement of some sort?
Yeah,
referral business.
We have done the more legal route, but some of them we honestly just have a handshake agreement where, hey, we're not going to solicit your business and vice versa. And honestly, as long as they don't do any of the private wealth stuff and they only do CPA stuff, we're not really worried about them taking over any of our clients. In fact, it might be a really good symbiotic relationship for us to work together. So, we have done the legal aspect on a couple of relationships. So I don't know if that answers your question, Bill.
It does. I like the opening, we take the legal route, there's nothing in the dark side, which is good, especially with all our regulatory bodies. I just wanted to share this. Let me click this. So just food for thought, something we've been doing is, why is a center of influence important? Like, this is my kind of philosophy thoughts here. It's because of the relationship. Why is it valuable to identify these people, particularly a CPA, right? I mean, of the most important things to a person, money's way up there. When you're a small business owner and you go to a CPA, right, they're talking about your lifeblood right there, right? So the relationship couldn't be stronger. So that's something that we really tuned into. We've been going to CPAs in particular, and fun fact for everyone here, and I'm saying run rabbit run on this, they're not selling 401k plans when they're looking at deductions. That's insane. And we're finding that they are saying, oh, you know what you should do? Buy a couple trucks and write off the depreciation. What? So when we come to these CPAs, it blew my mind over the last year and a half that they're not making retirement part of the conversation. But we found when partnering with them, we go, hey, we can show you how to deepen value with your clients by saving them 50 grand a year, right? Or whatever, through looking at plan design and the deductions available. And then, these are a few qualifying questions. You guys are more than welcome to take a snippet just to look at it later. But these are good questions for starting conversations with CPAs and then to their end clients. But we've had a lot of success with this in conjunction with, like Mason's saying, the state mandates, and then those all those features that come out of Secure 2.0. So we've been having a lot of success with CPAs and just teaching them our business and then making whatever arrangement works work out. So those are my 2 cents, but it absolutely blows my mind beyond relief that a CPA doesn't do retirement. And we just need to realize that, educate them, and partner. And it's freaking awesome. And you basically piggyback on the relationship. The CPA comes in, I do your taxes, and by the way, you don't have a retirement plan. And guess who has the EIN? Those CPAs. You can take that, upload it in the 5500 tool, cross-reference, and you're done. And then you can just run on whoever's free. So we're doing that. We're doing it successfully. We built a whole kind of platform around it. And I highly recommend everyone in this group to focus on that if you're not already.
Another
Yeah,
COI where we've seen a lot of traction for startups is payroll providers. It's like the very first vendor that a small company hires are typically heavily involved with remitting contributions, and especially the smaller regional players. They're all trying to take business from ADP and Paychex, and ADP and Paychex sell that payroll integration story. And so they're always looking for advisors that can help them move business from ADP and Paychex's 401k platform. Now, everybody has mixed feelings, I think, on ADP, Paychex. Some people think Paychex is great, ADP sucks. Some people think ADP is great, Paychex sucks. They probably both are more on the latter side. But payroll providers has been a huge COI for us with startup business.
Yeah. It's crazy. I have Gusto. We do that for our payroll. And I think I saw Vestwell or another of those digitals show up. So I think that's dead on. Do you have like points of contact with payroll, or how do you begin?
Yeah, I mean, most payroll providers have, salespeople no different
Sure.
than anyone else. And so I guess, everybody knows their own market and regional players probably better than I ever could. So,
Yeah.
kind of put some feelers out to them and maybe even just start with like a meet and greet, start with education. I mean, that's a big part of what we do is just educating our COIs, kind of what Bill was saying was educating CPAs on the power of, don't assume that they necessarily know 401k as well as we do. And the other area we've done a ton of education, particularly in advance of the state mandate, is just associations. Every single association wants to say they're providing industry thought leadership to their members. And so we've done a ton of webinars on, hey, here's what this mandate looks like. Here's what it's going to mean. And oh, by the way, here are your other private employer sponsored plan options, and just take a very sort of independent consultative approach. And then we've had a ton of people follow up with us. Oh, hey, screw the government. I want to start my own plan. Help me do it. And Maine, that plays well because we're a pretty libertarian state. But yeah, so that's kind of been the 2 areas that we've been hammering is the payroll provider, and then just educating associations and other COIs on sort of what the different options are and what the pros and cons are.
Awesome.
One question that we are trying to be more intentional with asking this year is, we heard it from one of our benefits advisors at our agency, is whenever you get a new client asking to get lunch or happy hour with the new client, whether it's a business owner or whatever, whether it's like the president, and then their accountant, trying to just bridge that gap to make that connection with a mutual client, obviously involved right away. But then afterwards, you can kind of stem that into how can we help each other. So that's another way to kind of get exposed into the CPA realm. That's obviously focused on kind of like the business aspect of it.
Um, who here is going to Napa? I am.
Yeah,
Cool.
this year, unfortunately.
I think I probably will be, but I haven't signed up yet.
Okay. We should do a little happy hour get together, I think. Do a
Yeah.
little in-person something. Nashville is a good place for it. And I just wanted to throw that in. Is there anything else from anyone on this topic? I had a few resources that I wanted to throw out, like the Bureau of Labor Statistics. If you want to get geeky, right? Like this has nothing to do with like your region or like specifics, but like all of the data right now that you'll read about is from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. They did I'll put it in chat, but they did research talking about which sectors and industries in the private sector, offer a retirement plan, what the take-up rate is. Construction and service are number 1 and 2 for the types of people you'll run into. And then the other thing I'll mention is Georgetown University 2 years ago did a really, really good in-depth piece of research on this topic as well. It's very interesting. Shows the motivating factors, shows the tailwinds. If you're just looking to get academic, I'd recommend that. I will put the Bureau of Labor Statistics notes in chat, and then I'll pile on with the Georgetown thing with the debrief email. But those were my last notes that I have for today.
Hey, Bill, with bid money, can you give us another breakdown again of how that software like looks and searches for the startup plans and like how that works inside that program?
Yes, I think their CEO would be mad if I gave away the sauce, but they did figure out a startup prospector. It is proprietary, but they did find a way to cross-reference the part I will get, like they cross-reference against what 5500s are filed, right? And what hasn't been. And so they just merge data, delete those that filed. What's left is your startups. So there is a startup prospector that they've solved for in that regard. So those tools exist. And for those that are interested, just feel free to contact me.
Cool. Thanks.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Cool. And going once, going twice, we can get a few minutes back. Does anyone have anything else?
Is there anything specific that you guys maybe want to touch on next week that you're struggling with or want to set the new year off right for our February meeting?
I'd be curious in a deep dive on service. I think Nate, it was you who was saying that you'd have an education guy come in, a la carte, right, for a fee. I'd be really curious how people are changing their service in depth for different segments so that they're not underwater. I'd love to do a deep dive there.
Yeah, and maybe with like the tiered on like the assets in the plan and kind of what you guys do as the plan gets larger, obviously what other services you include.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, including bolt-ons like and sweeteners and things like that like wellness or like when you pivot to like a profit sharing feature, things like that would be helpful.
Sweet.
Okay, we'll put a pin in that then. Thanks everyone. This was good.
Awesome. See you guys.
You guys,
Thanks.
thank you.
See you guys.
Yes.
Thanks, guys.
Have a great rest of your day.